Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lysha from Lysha Be Creative, and today I'm going to show you how I finish my rhinestone tumblers as well as share with you a brand new UV resin that I've been using and loving. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I like to do as soon as my stones are all done curing, I'm going to give this a nice bath. So I like to use Dawn Power Wash to really give my stones a nice scrub down to really let them shine. Now that my stones are mostly dry, I'm now going to show you guys how I finish off the bottom. So you guys know that I have been loving the glitter butts, and you guys have seen me do these in a couple of tutorials already. So I am loving that, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. But the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that that bottom section is nice and clean. So I'm going to take a little bit of acetone with a coffee filter here and just really make sure I don't have any overspray from when I base painted the cup. Make sure I don't have any debris or anything from any of the glue or anything that may have gotten on the bottom here, and really just make sure I have a nice clean surface to work with so that I can get this bottom section all finished off. So to finish off this bottom, I'm going to be using UV resin. I'm going to be using a gold glitter that I got from Lysha Creations. This is Butterfly Bush, and I'm also going to be using a brand new UV resin. This is from Mama Boss Glitter. Cecilia over there sent me her bottle of her brand new UV resin that she's now carrying in her shop, and I could not wait to try this. As soon as I saw that she sent this to me, I said I have to go ahead and give this a go. So I'm going to use the UV resin that I was sent, and I'm going to pour a little bit of this into my medicine cup. And so what I've noticed so far about this resin, which I absolutely love, is that it's much thinner than any of the UV resins that I've used before, which is great because it makes mixing your glitter in so much easier. You don't have to worry about it being too clumpy, which usually is the issue when you're trying to use epoxy, right? When you add glitter to epoxy and then put it on, you know, the bottom of your tumbler or apply it to anything, it tends to thicken up with glitter. But I love that this is a thin UV resin, so when I add glitter to it, it really doesn't do too much thickening to it, and I don't have to worry about it ending up being gloopy and clumpy when I go to apply it. So I've gotten a little bit of UV resin into my medicine cup here, about probably, I want to say maybe 10 mLs, probably less than that if I'm honest. I've just put a little bit of the gold glitter in there just to cover the top of the UV resin, and I'm going to give this a nice stir. I also love how smooth this was. This was so smooth when I was stirring. I was able to stir pretty slowly, but I didn't even have to torch or do any sort of spraying rubbing alcohol onto my UV resin because it was literally bubble free and I didn't have to worry about making sure any of the bubbles were popped. Now, certainly if you're not using this UV resin and you're using others, I do typically either will torch my UV resin or just spray a little bit of 91% alcohol to get any of those bubbles to pop. So I'm going to spread that around evenly, and then I am going to cure this under my UV lamp, and I'm going to cure it for about 2 minutes. So according to the back of the package for this UV resin that I'm using, it said 2 to 3 minutes with like a 9-watt lamp. I have a 168-watt lamp, so I wanted to be sure that this one was going to be super cured. So I decided to go in for about 1 minute and 30 seconds, almost 2 minutes. So I did it for about 1 minute 60 seconds the first time, and then did another round of 30 seconds just to make sure that everything was cured. But as soon as I got through those 2 cycles, it was hard as a rock. It was perfect. It was smooth. I didn't have to worry about any bubbles, anything. It was perfect. So after that last 30-second pass, this is what it looks like. It's hard as a rock. I'm double checking to make sure, and it's perfect. So of course, as soon as I saw how beautifully this UV resin was curing for me, I had to go in and decide to add a couple extra things to my box for my tumbler swap partner. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to switch gears here, and we're going to use this UV resin in a couple other projects that I have to add to this tumbler swap box. So I have a couple of car coaster blanks that I got from Zindy's and a 2.5-inch circle blank that I purchased off of Amazon. Everything will be linked down in the description box, so don't feel like you are going to miss out. Check that description box out. It'll have everything that I use in today's tutorial down below. I'm also using Butterfly Bush as well as Vacay. Both are from Lysha Creations. So I'm going to take the film off of all of the blanks and I'm going to give them all a good sanding. So I want to make sure I scuff up the surface since we're going to be applying an epoxy to them, or a resin I should say, to them, I want to make sure that I have a nice scuffed up surface to get that to stick to. So I'm just going to give these a nice scrub down, and then after I do that, I then will wipe them down with a little bit of 91% rubbing alcohol to make sure they're nice and clean before I go into applying any of the UV resin to them. So of course now it's time for resin. So the way that I like to do my blanks is I love to just tape them to like a piece of cardboard. It just makes it easier than trying to hold it in my hand when I'm trying to apply the UV resin and then try and transport it under the lamp. So I just put a little piece of painter's tape on the back of them and just stick them to a scrap piece of cardboard. So I've mixed up about 5 ml of the UV resin with a little bit of butterfly bush, and that is what I'm going to apply to my small circle blank here. So this is going to be just a little like bee keychain that I thought would be super cute to add to the box that I'm sending the cup in. So I am just going to literally pour that UV resin on, and I'm just going to kind of use my stir stick here to frost it like it's a cookie, pretty much. That is just my way of doing things. I know that some people like to use like liquid latex to make sure they don't get any of their UV resin on the other side. I've never had an issue with that, and if I do, it's usually pretty easy for me to scrape off with like an X-Acto knife or something, but to each their own. But while I am waiting for that to cure, and I'm going to cure that for about 60 seconds or so, I may go in with another 30 seconds just to be safe. I'm now going to mix up my next bit of UV resin. So this is going to go over 2 of my blanks here, so the 2 car coasters here, and we're just going to use Vacay. Vacay is a beautiful, beautiful white from Maisha Creations. Absolutely love this color. It is definitely one of my favorite whites. And so I'm just going to put a little bit of UV resin into the cup. I think I put closer to 15 ml of this UV resin in that cup. And then I'm going to put the Vacay over top. So I just created kind of a mound that just covered the top of that to make sure I would have enough for both blanks. So I'm going to take off my little acrylic blank there, and I am going to tape my car coaster mold, or my car coaster blanks rather, to the little piece of cardboard that I have so that I can mix up this UV resin, get it applied, and then get it under the UV lamp. So again, I really love the thin viscosity of this UV resin. I think it's really helpful, especially when you're doing additives like I am, because typically when I'm using UV resin, like I'm not just putting it over clear over something. I usually am adding something to it, whether it's a mica powder, whether it's, you know, paint, alcohol ink, something to color it. I'm usually always adding something to it. And 9 times out of 10, it's glitter, because why not, right? So I do love that the glitter that I'm adding is not making it super thick. I have definitely run into issues when I've done kind of these really quick resin crafts using UV resin that, you know, when you add just a touch too much, right, glitter to your UV resin, it gets goopy, and then you have to add more resin, and then you're wasting your resin. So I've been there. I just love that this is super thin. It just really does make things so much easier to apply. And I also really love that I really didn't need to torch this. I didn't need to apply rubbing alcohol. Like, it just is so thin and smooth, almost like water, I guess. Like, it almost is like water. I mean, obviously you'll be able to smell and you'll definitely know it's UV resin, but I just loved that it was so thin and so easy to manipulate, and I didn't struggle whatsoever, right? Making sure that I had the right measurements of my glue to UV resin. So I've just applied the 15 ml of that UV resin with Vacay in it to my 2 molds, or to my blanks, and I'm just going to set those under my lamp for 120 seconds. So I went 2 minutes with those just because they're a little bit wider and because I had a little bit more UV resin on them than my smaller blank, and I wanted to be sure that they cured hard. So after 2 minutes, I took those out from under the lamp and they were cured hard. I loved it. So now I'm just going to take those off of that little piece of cardboard, and we're going to prep the other side so that we can get the decals as well as the UV resin over top. So I'm just going to remove the backing from all 3 of the blanks that I'm using here, and I'm going to give it again a nice sanding, clean it off with a little bit of 91% alcohol. Then I'm going to go print my decals, or cut my decals on my Cricut so that I'm ready to get the decals applied and get these in for final coats. So for my card coasters, I decided that I'm going to apply the bees that I applied to the tumbler onto the blanks, and I'll make a little squiggly line with my acrylic paint marker. So these are all the same decals that I used for the original tumbler design when I created the rhinestone cup. So I will again link those down in the description box for you guys in case you're looking to recreate these cute little additives for a cup that maybe you're creating. So I'm also going to add the little honeycomb pattern to the small acrylic paint blank, which will be a little keychain. And so I'm going to grab my acrylic paint marker and I'm just going to create the little like squiggly line, which just kind of mimics obviously the bee's path line, flight path, whatever you want to call it, onto just the two car coaster blanks before I get ready to seal these. So I'm going to be sealing the car coasters with just a clear layer of resin, but before I do that same thing to the little keychain mold, I'm actually going to spray paint this white. I want this to be a cute little peekaboo, so I'm actually going to take that, I'm going to tape it to another piece of cardboard, and then I'm going to take that and I am going to take it over to my little spray paint booth area and spray paint that with a flat white spray paint. So as soon as that matte white spray paint is dry, I'm ready to do all of my final sealing on all of these three blanks. So again, I'm just using that same UV resin and just applying kind of probably a dime to nickel sized amount of UV resin over the top, and then spreading that along to the edges just like I did when I had the glitter as an additive. But we're going to do a nice clear layer to just kind of seal everything in, seal my decals in, and create a nice smooth surface of that blank. So once I'm done with that, of course, this will go back under the lamp for almost 2 minutes. I think I did 2 rounds of 60 seconds for the final cure. And then now while I'm waiting for that to finish curing, I'm just going to peel off the little pieces of the honeycomb here off of that. That way I have that prepped and ready to go for its final coats in or on top of that blank. So just a little bit of UV resin on top of that. I wish I would have remembered to add a little bit of like a mica powder, like I have like diamond dust or diamond magic would have been perfect for my extra creations in that top layer. Really would have given that white a little bit of sparkle, but that's okay. But I'm going to take those car coasters out, put the keychain blank in. Now these are done while I'm waiting for that to cure. Those are finished, ready to go. I don't have to do anything else with them. I didn't get any UV resin along the edges where I'd have to clean up, so those were perfect, ready to go, completely done. So as soon as this is done, I'm not quite finished with this. I'm actually going to grab the little bee charms that I used on my rhinestone cup, and I'm going to add one of these to my little keychain here. I just thought it would be a cute little additive to kind of match her cup. So again, just that T shape with the UV resin, apply that bee charm right on top, and then put it under the lamp to cure for another 30 to 60 seconds. And so as soon as that is done, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply the keychain hardware to my little circle blank here, and that was it. These were done literally in a span of maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and that is only because I was distracted watching TV while I was making things. So that's the only reason why it took as long as it did. But this is so quick, simple, easy. I absolutely love doing cute UV resin crafts. I just feel like they're super simple to do, and with UV resin you can get them done in a matter of minutes. It makes it so easy to put together a quick keychain for last minute pop-up events, last minute gifts, anything you can think of. I just love creating these, and definitely make sure that you check out Mama Boss Glitter for her brand new UV resin as well as her beautiful gorgeous glitters. You will not be disappointed, I promise. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, definitely make sure to give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And of course, I will see you guys again soon.